If you thought that Meghan was serious about not coming back to the UK, the fact that the Harkles renewed Frogmore Cottage lease says otherwise. And this is to keep Harry's role as Chancellor of State, which is a grave cause of concern that you're about to find out. Welcome back, my Battle Language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Battle Language guy, and it would be great if you join us by just liking this video, subscribing, and hitting that bell. Let's get down to it. You might have thought that Harry's days as working royal and involved in monarchy matters were long gone for good. But the fact is that he is still one of 4 councillors of state to Her Majesty the Queen. At the Queen's request, councillors are able to carry out most of her official duties, such as signing documents and Privy Council meetings. They're basically the backup for exceptional situations such as the Queen traveling or an illness. You can imagine that since the Queen has got COVID, luckily with mild symptoms, this has become a hot topic in a matter of hours. Now, this is where it gets concerning. The Constitution states that the councillors of state must be the next 4 people in the line of succession who meet certain requirements. They must be over 21 years old, they must be domiciled in the United Kingdom and not disqualified from becoming monarch. So according to the law, the current councillors of state are Charles, William, Harry, and Andrew. Yeah, talk about a motley crew. You might have heard that people have been requesting the Queen to remove Andrew from this role, but it's not that easy because it's a constitutional law. Buckingham Palace has stated that councillors of state can only be changed through legislation, with the decision lying with Parliament. But constitutional experts affirm that this could never really happen unless the Queen herself requested it. So it's complicated, and that's why on the royal family's page, Andrew is still listed as one, and it's highly unlikely that this is going to change. Now, one of the requirements is being domiciled in the UK. So how come Harry is still a councillor of state? Isn't he living in the US now? And this has to do with the legal terms residence versus domicile. A residence is a home you expect to live in for a temporary period, whereas a domicile is a home you plan to live in for an indefinite period. Any place you own property or live for a certain amount of time can be your residence, but only the location that you establish as your permanent home can be your domicile. So in theory and legally, you can have many residences but only one domicile. Now, this is not like you can just sign a document making a statement that you are changing your domicile and that's it. That doesn't work that way. You have to effectively demonstrate that whatever you state as your domicile is your permanent address. For example, let's say that Harry and Meghan's domicile is still the UK, and Montecito is just a temporary residence. The more time they spend living at Montecito, the harder it will be to prove that the UK is still their domicile. And if any legal matter arises, for example, the status as councillor of state that requests that your domicile must be in the UK, Harry could lose that. So first, that's why the Harkles have renewed the lease on Frogmore Cottage. That's part of making the claim that the UK is still their domicile, so Harry can still be councillor of state. And have you heard all those rumors that they didn't actually buy Montecito, but they are renting it? It will make sense, because when push comes to shove, it will be far easier to prove that their move to the US was temporary if they just rented and not bought a home there. Remember, that could be the reason they are not over the moon with their 16 bathrooms. This is part of the criteria that is judged on a case-by-case basis. But there is something that you just cannot get away with. You have to be physically in the country you claim to be your domicile. So Harry must go back to the UK to claim that he can still be councillor of state, right? Well, that's not enough, because in most countries, including the UK, you have the concept of centre of vital interest, which is defined by a person's family and social relations, occupation, among other criteria. For example, if Harry comes back to the UK and Meghan and the kids stay in the US, then Harry's center of vital interest is still in the US. Because that's where his wife and kids are, where kids go to school, and where the headquarters of his job is. Now, of course, whatever he does at Better Up, he can do online. But for Harry to be effectively confirmed as Chancellor of State, he must be domiciled in the UK. And to be domiciled in the UK, his wife and kids must come back and live with him in the UK. Ergo, our infamous Duchess is coming back more sooner than later. This is why Harry has been openly claiming that the UK is still my home and he is in the direct line of succession. The pieces of the puzzle begin to fit. That is nothing more than a public relations campaign so he can use it for any legal purposes. Now, there's the obvious question. Why does Harry want to keep this role? Didn't he want his private life away from royal duties? Here's the disturbing thing. There's a presumption that royal functions of councillors of state are to be exercised jointly or by a majority of them. So can you imagine our motley crew trying to work jointly on royal matters? So far the Queen has proven to be made of steel. But what if she has to make use of them? And I forgot to mention that another councillor of state will be the spouse of the monarch, which in this case it would have been Prince Philip. Then you realize, what will happen with this group when Charles becomes king? The motley crew will be Camilla, as she will be the spouse of the monarch, and the other 4 councillors will be William, Harry, Andrew, and Beatrice. Now, why is this important? Because Charles has already stated that he plans to have a slimmed-down monarchy when he becomes king. And it makes sense on paper because in theory, if you have a tighter group of working royals, it would help you with consensus and management. It's a no-brainer. Smaller groups or teams are easier to manage. The big obstacle is the number of royal engagements that this reduced group of working royals will have to face. The royal family is part of Britain's image as a country. Royal engagements, both locally and overseas, help keep that fire burning. But even if he decides to go for this slimmed-down monarchy, it so happens that the good councillors of state will be, in some way, outnumbered. There is no doubt there must have been frictions between Charles and Andrew given the Duke of York's scandals. And you can guess that when conflict arises, the side that Beatrice picks will not precisely be that of her uncle. Not to mention that if Gingerbread keeps the seat at the table, he will be doing whatever is needed to bring notoriety to himself and of course his wife. What's more, any appearance that includes both Harry and William will bring attention to their rift and not to the royal duty they will be working on. And that's what the Harkles have been doing this far, coasting on notoriety produced by recurring conflicts and confrontations. Do you really think that Meghan could possibly allow Harry to lose that role? She won't, and they are willing to do anything it takes to keep it, including coming back to the UK. But first, they have to make sure that the headlines make it seem that it's the UK and the royal family that need them and not the other way around. That's typical grandiose narcissist behavior, and that's why the headlines are going to continue, such as Harry is expected to miss Philip's memorial service next month as he continues his legal battle over security. I have mentioned this a couple times and I'm gonna say it again. Every behavior always comes from an intention. Even if you see disjointed behaviors that apparently make no sense, there is always an underlying scheme that explains why a person acts in a certain way. You'll notice that whatever the Harkles do next is gonna fit with the Councillor of State plan. If you want to refine your observation skills, all you have to do is download my 100 body language tips right in the description of this video. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas and it will always be a pleasure, my body language buddies. Much love and bliss.